A leaked internal TSA report showed that hidden weapons were able to slip past security 95% of the time. If you had such a high rate of failure at your job, it would be safe to say you wouldn't hold that job for very long. So why do we keep funding a failed government program? This speech is going to address why the TSA should be abolished and what alternative methods can be taken to ensure the safety of travelers. I have done my fair share of traveling, both pre 9/11 and post 9/11. However, regardless of when or how often someone has flown, when most of us are planning on flying, we inevitably have thoughts of the TSA and whether or not we will be harassed. The reason this topic is important is because of the infringement of our rights, the huge yearly operating cost of the TSA, and the fact that there are much more effective methods to protecting air travelers. First, we will address how the TSA abuses their power and the ways our rights are infringed upon. Then, we will address the huge budget the TSA is given yearly and how it is a vast waste of money. And then finally, we will discuss more effective methods to protecting air travelers. Let's begin by addressing the most important topic of the three: how the TSA is abusing its power and taking away some of our rights. The TSA frequently abuses the rights of Americans. Nicole Russell with thefederalist.com wrote this about one occasion. A female TSA agent pats down passenger Angela Rye in a way that's so intimate and invasive it seems downright absurd. Frustrated and likely humiliated, Rye begins to cry towards the end. Many believe the TSA violate the Fourth Amendment, which is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. This is all without providing security benefits to us or the country. In one case, John Harrington, a former TSA agent, said that two TSA Transportation Security Administration screeners at Denver International Airport were manipulating full-body scanners in order to grope men's crotches. Yes, of course, the two TSA agents were fired, but this doesn't hide or change the fact that the TSA has their hands on American private parts far too often, and that incidents like this are happening more than they should be. The current body scanners that are being used today in airports have a very high false alarm rate. Christian Saletsky with Publica.org said this about full body scanners. Millimeter waves also reflect off water, which can cause the scanner to mistake sweat for a potentially dangerous object, which, with the way security checks go, it can be pretty stressful. How can we give up our rights to being searched when the equipment that would lead to a search in the first place is giving such high false alarm rates? This TSA has also had to reach agreements with American Civil Liberties Union after a flurry of complaints from African American women whose hair was too frequently inspected after passing through the scanners. These are just a few of the instances of the TSA abusing its power and taking away the rights of Americans. Now let's discuss the huge budget the TSA is given and how it is a vast waste of money. Dylan Matthews with Vox.com wrote about a study done to see how effective the TSA was at finding contraband coming in the airports. Homeland Security officials looking to evaluate the agency had a clever idea. They pretended to be terrorists and tried to smuggle guns and bombs onto planes 70 different times. And 67 of those times, the red team succeeded. Their weapons and bombs were not confiscated, despite the TSA's lengthy screening processes. That's a success rate of more than 95%. With being so good at letting threats through, the TSA is still given a budget of $7.6 billion a year, and this is from their own website. The TSA says our officers, inspectors, air marshals, canine handlers, and other security professionals here in the United States and around the globe are committed to our mission, and they are our most important resource. Yet, their most important assets were unable to stop 95% of dangerous items such as bombs and weapons. These could have easily been brought onto real planes. There's basically zero evidence the agency has prevented any attacks. The TSA claims it won't provide examples of such cases due to national security. But given its history of bragging about lesser successes, this is a little tough to believe. The TSA only referred to law enforcement 14% of passengers who were flagged. Of that 14%, only 0.6% led to an actual arrest. And 0% of those arrests led to anything terrorist related. It's clear to see that the TSA has done nothing useful with the large budget it is given every single year. Finally, let's dive into more effective methods to protect air travelers. Fear is what led to all of the strict security measures we see today. We shouldn't let fear continue to control the way we operate our airports, especially when those measures have been drastically inefficient. One thing that has come to mind for many is to have safety checks for airliners, as we do for cars. People tend to shy away from vehicles or brands with poor safety ratings, which would happen, of course, if airlines had safety ratings as well. The burden to protect the passengers should really lie with the airline company. After all, they protect the plane and the cargo. Why not extend this protection to the airline companies? Another strong deterrent would be if more pilots were armed. ABC News said, "It's not known how many of the nation's nearly 90,000 pilots will end up carrying guns. The program is voluntary." This could allow the pilots to be able to protect their passengers better if terrorists were to attempt to take over a plane. The program requires close quarter combat training and a psychological screening, as well as the gun to be locked up at all times if the pilot is ever to leave the cockpit. This keeps the weapon in the hands of the pilot only. There are many options that could take the place of the TSA, and it is certainly something that should be discussed further. To conclude, the TSA infringes on our rights and costs the taxpayers billions a year, with many options to replace them. The TSA should be abolished, not only because of the waste of money, but because we deserve to maintain our rights and to actually be safe when traveling. The TSA merely gives the illusion of security, but at a hefty price tag. As Americans, we can have both better security and our rights back. We must take action and stop the monster known as the TSA. Thank you.